Let me take you back 15 years to year 2001. And let's assume for a moment that this is the International Education Conference. Most of you here would think that excellence and quality are more important things in improving the systems than equity. And you would say so because most of you would think that you can only have excellence or equity. You cannot have them both simultaneously. Because we didn't have any data, we didn't have any information about how systems can work. So in this conference 15 years ago, there would be probably only very few systems, like maybe Sweden, Norway, perhaps Iceland, and certainly Finland, who would be crazy enough to say that we think that equity and equality should go first, and then we see what happens next. So let me speak a little bit about this kind of a dilemma of education policy regarding excellence or equity. Now everybody speaks about equity, like in this Atlantic Rim Collaboratory Summit. Equity has been one of the key topics. But what do we know about this thing? Can we actually have equity and excellence or quality of education systems simultaneously? Or do we need to think that we have to sacrifice one to get the other? The good news is that we have much more data now and evidence to talk about this thing compared to what it was 15 years ago. And let me show you a simple graph here that will show you how different countries, different education systems perform in terms of these two variables. Quality that you see here in a vertical side, and this quality is basically what we have available right now. It's the student assessment scores in reading, mathematics, and science literacy. So this data is from the OECD PISA database. So what I've done here is that I aggregate everything, all the data together, and put little weights there so that we have a kind of a national average for all these three domains. Okay? Are you with me? Good. Then the horizontal line is a kind of a new dimension here, and this is the equity. And now because of the data that we have available, we can also compare education systems in terms of how equitable or little equitable they are. Okay? So what you see here is that if you move from left to right, the systems become more equitable. And here the equity simply means, as it means in many studies and analyses, it means that we look at the strength, or in this case the weakness, of the relationship between children's family background, their socioeconomic background, and the performance in this knowledge test. In other words, how well they do in school. Okay? So if the link is strong, so if the family background determines children's learning in school throughout the system, then the education system has less equity than those systems where the family background doesn't mean so much. Okay? So now we are looking at these two variables here, and this is the international average. So this is the average of these two variables here, quality and equity. Okay? So just to be sure that we are all on the same page. So if your education system is here, this is a bad place to be, of course, because it means that you have a twin problem. You have an issue with equity and you have challenges with quality of your system. If you are here, it means that the quality of your students' learning in reading, math, and science is good, it's above the average, but you have an issue with equity. Okay? So if your system is here, it means that you have a stronger equity, but your challenge, your problem is the quality of learning outcomes. And this, of course, this green area here was everybody, all of you would like to be there, right? That's the space where quality and equity meet. Okay? And now the question is that how do the education systems within the OECD, the wealthiest education systems in the world, how do they find their places in this space here? Okay? Let's start with England or United Kingdom. Just think about United Kingdom for a moment. Where do you think the United Kingdom is? That's where they are. And it's interesting, it doesn't matter really what jurisdiction of the UK you're thinking about, they're pretty much in the same area. What about United States of America? Most people think that United States of America is doing very badly because you have people like Donald Trump and you have your bad media who is kind of putting forward false information about how the public school system in America is doing. According to the international data, what we have available right now, this is where the United States is. Let me tell you something, this is almost exactly where the United States of Europe, we don't call it United States of Europe, we call it European Union. This is where the European Union is, okay? So America is not doing that bad if you compare America to some others. This is where Australia is. So now the conclusion is that if you speak only English in your country, you're average. So my message to you is that let your children learn another language and you will do much better. If you don't believe my word, just take a look at the next one. Canada. Canada is one of those countries where most people speak more than one language. They learn English and French. But it's amazing, isn't it? Most of the Canadian provinces and territories have both quality and equity simultaneously. It's amazing, and this is so close and so similar to United States of America. So Canadian provinces are worth looking at. Ontario, Alberta, Quebec, BC, and many others. Okay? So I often say that Canada is so great that it's in heaven. It's like Bono from Ireland who says that world needs more Canada. And this is particularly true in education. So that's where the education heaven is, where Canada is right now. Where do you think Iceland is? This beautiful little island here. Iceland is somewhere there. So Iceland is one of those few countries that has strong equity but issue with quality of learning outcomes. And here are the other OECD countries. And now you will see that there is indeed a correlation between these two variables, excellence and quality and equity, isn't there? It's like, if you use this heaven metaphor, then this is like a stairway to heaven, right? You remember this song? It goes something like this. Now, of course, everybody wants to know where Finland is. Okay, you don't see Finland there. I'm going to show you where Finland was about 35, 40 years ago. Okay, when we still had a system that was dividing young people into two different types of schooling based on where they came from, and that's approximately where we were about 40 years ago in the 1970s. And what is interesting in the Finnish case is that if you look at this map flag over there, this is what the journey of Finland has been during the course of the last 30 or 40 years, straight in the middle of heaven. And that's pretty much a story of building an equitable system of education. Finland has very weakly emphasized the quality and excellence of education. The Finnish education policy during the last 40 years is a policy of equality of educational opportunity and equity. Okay, so these are some of those countries that we often envy: Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai. But you see, for example, Singapore has a very high learning outcomes, but Singapore has an issue with equality and equity in education. Now, there are some countries that are trying to reach the heaven, right? Like this one over there, Switzerland. Do you recognize this country here? The Netherlands, the Dutch. You know, the Dutch, they are so close to heaven that they're almost like knocking on heaven's door. You remember that song? Now you have an opportunity to sing with me a little bit, because it goes something like this. Now, Summit people, join me singing. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. I mean, everybody now, sing with me. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Raise your hand, people. If you believe in equity, raise your hand. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. If you want to have excellence and equity, raise both of your hands. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Thank you so much. I love you people. I really love you. So 3 things that you can take away from this. If you have a question in mind, that what these 5 countries there, Estonia, Japan, Korea, Finland, Canada, what they have in common. They all have paid a particular attention to how to spend the resources that they have. In Finland, for example, we have a policy in many places that we call a positive discrimination of funding and resourcing schools, meaning that we give more resources and money to those schools that have more needs. Then we have an early childhood program, and many of those countries have as well, that the children have access to high quality early learning programs before they go to school. And then thirdly, we all are concerned about the health and well-being of our children when they are in school, so that they are happy and ready to learn. Take it or leave it. Thank you so much. Thank you.